Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of 25 with Tech 25. I am Tim Higgins, Secretary of District 25, and your lone host today. I am flying solo, and so I decided to do a particular topic that I really enjoy and have sort of, I guess, a background in and interest in, and that is video. And so I do know, from personal experience, being one of the video people for the district, for our communications department, that a lot of cool stuff goes on here in the district. And I definitely am kind of the thinking that it's worth capturing, it's worth sharing with either one another, for being able to share ideas and share the things that are going on, but also out to the community, to our parents, and to even people who just are part of Arlington Heights and are curious to know about the cool things that are happening here. So I'm going to run you through kind of a couple little tools, tricks, tips, things like that we have. And as always, we'll kind of do this in a little bit of a rapid fire way. And it's kind of a nice thing that all episodes end up on YouTube after this. So if we are going too fast to keep up right now, then you can definitely watch it on YouTube after, pause, rewind, listen to me over and over again. And of course, as always, send us any questions that you have regarding any of the things that we talk about. And, in this case, you can send it directly to me, to thiggins@sd25.org. And so I guess let's get rolling. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually what we're using right now. This is something called Google Hangouts on Air. And it's different from the Hangouts that we've talked about in the past. The Google Hangouts, where you can, from within Gmail or within Google in general, kind of converse, talk with either groups of people or one-on-one in video calls. This is actually kind of a similar entity of that Google Hangouts, but this has this extra aspect where, of course, you can do the, up to 10 people talking amongst themselves, sharing screens. You can do a one-on-one, but the extra aspect is that it is then broadcast out to a larger audience and is recorded and uploaded directly to YouTube after the fact. So whenever these shows are done, I don't actually have to do anything. We hit stop broadcast, and Google does the rest. It just sends that video to YouTube, where I can label it, where I can add comments and explanations to it, for our audience to watch after the fact. And so this can definitely be used within the buildings for covering different events, for covering things that are going on in your classroom. If there are kind of cool presentations that the students are doing, and it's something that you'd like to share with their parents, they'd like to share with their parents, or their parents would like to see but can't necessarily be there. Sometimes, depending on the work situation, they might be able to take a couple minutes to tune into a broadcast to be able to see what their student is doing. So I'm just going to show you really briefly how all of you can set up a Google Hangout on Air, and sort of talk, as we're doing that, how it works. All right, so I'm going to move that out of the way here. And I'm just going to open up, in this case, Safari. I would say the only reason I'm using Safari right now is because because Chrome is occupied with this current Hangout. I would typically say, if you're going to do a Hangout on Air, do it through Chrome. You get a couple more features, and things just work a little smoother. But the setup is going to be the same across browsers. So we're in Safari. We are at Google. We are signed into our Turtle account. And if we click on the Apps section, and we are going to head into something called Google+. Now, Google+ might be something that you've never kind of have entered into before, but it is a part of our Google universe that we live in. And it's sort of, the idea behind it is that it's this social networking sort of platform, where you can subscribe to different groups and topics and things, post onto basically a wall. The only thing, in all honesty, that I use it for is this Google Hangouts on Air. All of the events that I am a part of or create, because typically they're being created in my account, get posted to my wall. Now, this is the Turtle account, so there's not as much stuff, but this is sort of the basic layout of how this works. And if I go here to the home button in the upper left, and I scroll down, we see that there's a section called Hangouts. So we go into Google+, we select Hangouts. Now, the first time, if it's the first time you're heading into Hangout or into Google+, there might be a small setup Google is actually slightly separate from the rest of our Google tools, and it's actually a separate team at Google altogether. And so there's a little bit of a setup process similar to if you set up a Facebook account or something like that, where it'll have you put a picture in. That's actually one of the places where you can add a picture to your account, and then just sort of how your username is laid out. But once you're in there, home button, Hangouts, and we get a couple choices. We can just start a normal video hangout, similar to exactly like the one that we would be able to set up just straight out of Gmail, or we can click onto this middle option called Hangouts on Air, and that's what we want right now. So if we then click our orange Create a Google Hangout on Air, a little window pops up, and this is where I create all of these episodes beforehand. So you can either, if you're looking to just broadcast right in that moment, you can just come in here and you see that there's this now selection. We can name it with Tech 25 example. You can put in a description. This is what the description that goes out in our email. I add it to here and then I paste it into the email after. And then again, like I said, we could either start it right now, where if we hit share, it would kick us right into a Google Hangout, or we could set it to later. And this is what I typically do. So now if it's a set of presentations that maybe you're gonna go do out to the class, or an event or a performance that's happening in your classroom in the school, you can then actually set the date and time and an approximate duration. Now the duration doesn't hold you to anything. You can start a Google Hangout on air before, you can let it go over. This is just sort of an approximation, more to give the audience, the people that you invite to your broadcast, give them an idea as to how long it's going to run. So if we say today at, let's go 4 o'clock, say it's going to be 30 minutes, and then we get to set our audience. So it's defaulted to send an email out to our entire district. So I would typically suggest not to do this. The way I go about doing it is I actually just invite myself to it. Or in this case, if in the case of your broadcasting something out to parents, if you have a list of emails, this would actually be a perfect place to place all those emails to be able to send that invitation out. Because what happens here is it just creates our Hangout, and if I hit share, and then if I come over to my Gmail account, I should see, if not yet, in a minute or two, we should see that a invitation will have come through with an event that looks very similar to this one. This is actually the event that we are in currently for our Tech 25, or 25 with Tech 25. Now, once this event is created, we see that it brings you to this page where it gives you sort of our basic information on it that can be added to a calendar. It tells you that it's a Hangout on air, who it's created by, and then most importantly, the link. So this is actually what I do when I'm setting up our 25 with Tech 25, is I just grab the links out of here, I paste them as a hyperlink inside of an email, and I send that out. So this kind of gives you a lot of control as to who's actually watching. If you just send it out to the whole district, it means that other people are notified of it and other people can watch it. But if you want to keep it very specific, very narrowed as to who's watching it, you can take the YouTube streaming page or the Google Plus streaming page and just send that out to your audience, whether that's parents, whether that's colleagues, whether that's students, different classrooms, etc. Once you are kind of coming into the time where you're ready to start your Hangout on air, you hit the little blue start button, and at that point it will launch a window. And this is a great example as to why we want to use Chrome. We see that it's lagging a little bit here, here in Safari. And so what happens is then you get this sort of a window showing you what you are seeing, and then you get a couple tools on the left-hand side. Up on top, it tells you you can mute your microphone, camera, and some different settings. If you're having problems with the picture not showing up or the sound not coming through, you're going to hit the settings to tell it which input you are using. And then this is how you switch screens. You can click on the screen share option, and then it gives you, depending on how many windows you have open and available, it can switch over and share that screen with your audience. And of course, do not forget to start your broadcast. Even if you hit the particular time that you set, it's not going to automatically start. You're always going to hit that green button to start it and the red button to finish it off. And so that is a Google Hangout on air. That's how you set that up. Any questions, of course, email me, Tim Higgins, over here at Tech25. I have a little bit of experience with it. This is exactly how we make all of these episodes possible. Another thing I want to show, and again, I just also want to stress the whole idea that once your screen, once your little broadcast is over, it automatically sends it straight up to YouTube, so you have your video captured there. And so, great way to share out a broadcast. Now, another great way to kind of go about sharing information with people, sharing the things that you're doing, is a tool that everybody has, every staff member on their Apple computers that's assigned to them, or in any Apple computers in the building, is QuickTime Player. Now, many people might be used to this. This is how you play different videos in video files that come up, but it actually has this other great feature, a screen capture or a web capture option. So if we click on QuickTime Player and open it, not too much happens on the screen, but we do see that our menu bar is switched over to tell us that QuickTime Player is activated. And if I go to File and do a new, I have the option, the new menu, I get a new movie recording, which would just go off of the webcam built into the computer. You can do an audio recording, which will record anything from the microphone. And then, of course, you have the new screen recording, which will record everything on screen. So it tells us that here we can end it by clicking the stop button up in the menu bar. But otherwise, pretty much everything we do now is going to be captured in this recording that we're doing. So if I open up iMovie and start doing stuff, it will capture. And so as soon as I hit the stop, we get a little video window showing exactly what we just recorded, and it lets us kind of walk through and take a view. It will actually record your audio as well, which is great. So you can walk people through different processes. This is great in terms of training, if you have to train staff members, new staff members on a process. If you want to basically, I guess, flip your classroom, you can record lessons this way. It really, endless possibilities in terms of capturing what is happening on a computer screen, or even better, because it's a screen capture, we can use our iPads as well. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So iPads, great because, every single one of them has a camera built into it. So we've, over the years, with just adding these mobile devices to the classrooms, whether it's a classroom or school iPad, or even a personal device, everything has a camera built into it. And so there's a couple different ways where we can get the information that's on here onto the computer. And this easy way, using this QuickTime Player, is going to be using something called Airplay, and that's going to be something, if you don't have it on a computer already, if you don't know what Air Server is, to be able to access Airplay, talk to your building support technician, and they can help you get set up with that. And so what I will do here is, in my iPad, I can swipe up from the bottom and select this little menu here to mirror my iPad to this device. So this 25 with Tech 25 cart is the cart that we use here to record all of these sessions. And so if we just record straight to our screen, we could easily use that Quick Player to do a screen recording, and we can actually give a screen recording of what's going on our iPad as well. So you can run people through processes on the iPad, you can run people through the processes on the computer, and possibilities basically endless. So we'll come back to that iPad here in a second. Because one of the other things I want to talk about that all buildings have available to them at this point is something called the Swivel Robotic platform. And this is going to be very useful in tandem with our iPads, for the reason that this robotic platform is meant as a presentation tool. And so the idea behind it is that we can, sorry, this was going to be a lot more dramatic than it's ending up being. Have a second of setup. But the swivel camera is meant for either recording yourself while presenting. It's great for recording student presentations to either play back to them, to show them and build presentation skills. It can be used in terms of your own staff teacher observations and the like that. And the reason that it is so useful is that you can set it on this platform. You can either put it on a desk at the front of a room. You can set it, actually it has an adapter on the bottom for an iPad. But the idea here is that if I'm holding this marker, which is just a little remote, has a lanyard so you can do it hands-free, it will follow you anywhere that you go within a room. So we can talk to the iPad, it will record you. There's actually a setup with there's actually an app that can be downloaded that the BSTs could push to a specific iPad if you're using a particular iPad in a classroom to actually record your audio straight into this device to get even better sound quality. But it will follow you around the room if you are sort of an animated moving around talker. It's a little bit more natural of a way of recording yourself while doing presentations. So this is the Swivel robotic platform. Every school has them. Talk to your building support technicians or your administrators. They should be available to check out in any of these buildings. So that is the Swivel. And really one of the things that we can do, so there, like I said, there's a Swivel app, but you can actually just as easily record it straight to your camera roll. So if you just use the camera application on the iPad, we can record straight into here and, say what you have to say, put your presentation out here. If there are other things, now what we'll be talking about here in a second is more of the editing, the post-production portion of capturing video. If we have this portion of it, we can stop that. So say we've recorded a whole bunch of stuff onto our device. We can come down and tap on our Google Drive. In the lower right-hand corner, there's a Drive app that I've downloaded here, and I've signed into my account. One of the cool things that you're able to do here is very easily, without having to plug these devices into any computers, because as you may know, if you've tried to do that in the past, the way that we have iPads set up, they're not necessarily always going to connect with a device, with a computer, because of how we manage them. So we can totally skip that whole portion. In Google Drive app, in the lower right-hand corner is a little plus sign with an upload button. And so right now we're on the screen, we're looking at my drive. And if I tap photos and videos, it gives us a couple options, or an option of the camera roll. And that little snippet of swivel footage that I just recorded shows in the upper left-hand corner. I tap that once to turn it gray, which means that it's selected. And I tap our little check mark, and then we see it, little blue progress bar, upload to Google Drive. So this is a great way to transfer all sorts of footage. Now, I earlier recorded a little bit of footage of Bubbles, the Tecker Turtle, here in the office during mealtime. And so I'm going to select those, and I'm going to send those little clips as well. And we'll see the progress kind of go. And as those finish, we will see that it is uploaded. And in a second here, if we head on into Drive, we will see that down here, if I shared it with you, that here in Drive, uploading to my Google Drive, are some movie files, which from here I can easily just take, select our More Options button, and I can download them straight to the computer. They will download into the Finder, into the Downloads folder, and then let me do whatever I need to with them. And so in the future, what we'll be talking about, so this is great because now we're getting it into one place to be able to put it into editing software, such as iMovie or etc., which we will talk about at a later 25 with Tech 25. But without even editing them, you have them in this place where we can now select a file, say it's an observation of a student that maybe a team of staff members work with, who would like to see a particular student's skills or how they've progressed. We could create a folder where we keep these different files, and let's do that. Let's do a new folder. So we've created observations. We can select them, we can drag them into observations, and then we can take this folder and we can share it off with whoever we'd like. They can view it, review it, get back to you, or they can download those if they need to, pass it along to the parents for any particular reason. This whole Google setup with our mobile devices, with our Google Drive, really allows for this easy transfer back and forth. So one other thing I want to talk about before we go, and like I said, we'll do some post-production in a later episode and in training episodes as well. Actually, let's just do this. So we're going to switch on over to our camera view. Hello, everybody. Would be best practices in capturing video and making it look as good as possible. So there's a couple different things to keep in mind. One of them is sound, and it's one of those things that you always notice after the fact. It's one of those things that our human ear is definitely able to tune different things out of our concentration, but electronic devices don't know how to do that. So they pick everything up. So as an example, you definitely may have heard some sound here in the background, and there's a meeting going on next door. Making sure doors are closed in rooms is going to be the #1 way. Making sure things like fans aren't on, that there is not music playing in the background. Those sort of things really add to the sort of the higher quality level of taping, and it's things that we don't necessarily always notice until after the fact. So before you record something, stopping, listening carefully to all the other things going on around you is something good to do. Another thing to pay attention to is lighting. So here we have bright lights to kind of try to brighten us up. But we notice that if it's behind me, it starts to make the camera, the device will try to adjust and fix the exposure by making me darker. It doesn't think that I am the subject. And so putting light shining from behind the camera towards the person is always going to be the way to go. And just making sure that things are lit in general. People complain about fluorescent light being just kind of harsh. However, if it's lighting it up, these cameras aren't very good at recording with the absence of light. Things get grainy. Things just don't look as nice. So another way to kind of up your professional quality, make sure you know where your lighting is. One of those things being the outdoor light is typically the biggest culprit. So closing shades and using more, more indoor man-made lighting is definitely nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. And then the other thing is just simple framing. So, we don't want to record with that much headroom, or there's sometimes reason to be close, but typically we want to be a little bit back. So you want to frame your subject properly, not too much headroom, and showing what's actually going on. And in terms of if you're going to be editing later, like we'll talk about next time, is getting something called B-roll. And B-roll is just sort of the extra stuff. Because typically your video will hinge on you talking about some particular subject matter. Think of the B-roll as the visual aid. It's the B-roll because it's not A, it's not the primary one, it's B, comes second. But I think that it's just as important, if not more important, in terms of making a professional looking video, having those visual aids to be able to cut to whilst people are talking just makes it a little bit more of a dynamic video in the end. So here I will leave you after sort of capturing video. Next time we will talk about editing and sharing those videos. And so just grab some footage. I would suggest anybody who's interested in watching, get some raw footage for next time. More stuff that you can kind of follow along when we're in iMovie or WeVideo, and things that you think can use to put together a video. So that will do it for this week's 25 with Tech 25. I'm Tim Higgins, Secretary here at District 25. Thank you for joining us. As always, ask any questions that you have. Send them to thiggins@st25.org or tech25@st25.org. And we'll see you next time.